The iron law of oligarchy basically says democracy is fake. There's always a ruling class. There's always a ruling elite structurally. And he said the reason for that is because the masses can't organize. Right. What's the fundamental problem? Whether the mass is 25,000 people in a union or 250 million people in a country, the masses can't organize. The majority cannot organize. Only a minority can organize. And to be effective in politics, you must organize. And therefore, every political structure in human history has been some form of a small organized elite ruling a large and dispersed majority. Every single one.
If you're somehow unfamiliar, the bald man in the polo sweater is Marc Andreessen, a billionaire Silicon Valley venture capitalist, and he's going to try to explain why his fellow technocrats are justified in ruling over the rest of us and controlling our lives to directly benefit them.
The presumption that we are in a democracy is just sort of by definition fake. Now, good news for the U.S., it turns out the founders understood this. And so, of course, they didn't give us a direct democracy. They gave us a representative democracy, right? And so they built the oligarchy into the system in the form of Congress and the executive branch and the judicial branch. But so anyway, so as a consequence, democracy is always and everywhere fake. There is always a ruling elite. And basically the lesson of the Machiavellians is you can deny that if you want, but you're fooling yourself. The way to actually think about how to make a system work and maintain any sort of shred of freedom is to actually understand that is actually what's happening.
It's so incredibly rich to hear a literal oligarch like Andreessen posturing as if he and the rest of his technocrat buddies like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Larry Ellison, and others are getting more involved in politics and government to protect the interests of the American people, when in reality, they're just accelerating and exacerbating the same class divisions already present in the country.
And I will tell you, the team around him has used that second term to plan and prepare. And then I would just say, if you look at the staffing that's taking place, another thing people said was, well, in the second Trump term, it's going to be an even worse team because of blah, blah, blah. The reality, I think, turns out is obviously the opposite. It's a much better team the second time. The caliber of people going in. And again, it's not even a critique of the people in the first term. It's just there's a cohort of people who are, primed and ready to go, who are experts in all these areas, who have lived through the last 4 years, and they're all on board with the thing, and they're ready to go in and bring all of their expertise. They're as well positioned to take this thing over and run it as anything I've seen in my life. Obviously we are very, very enthusiastically pulling for them.
Case in point, since Andreessen has convinced himself into believing that an elite ruling class must exist and therefore must rule over the masses, why shouldn't it be comprised of people who share the same class interests and motivations as him? Andreessen was a Democrat Party supporter up until Trump's first administration. And now that he's seen progressives in the party even slightly challenge the power of Silicon Valley, and by extension, the tech billionaire class, Andreessen got out while he could and went full MAGA in 2024.
I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, even people that are Democrats, they say, I feel better that Trump won.
Every day it feels better. It's just like it feels like just things are opening up.
It's the Obama campaign. It's hope and change.
Yeah, hope and change.
Remember?
It's hopey changey.
This is kind of actually hope and change.
Yeah.
This is actually it.
It feels like oxygen returning.
Yes.
It's absurd to compare the attitude surrounding Trump's second term to Obama's first term. President Obama ran on progressive promises, then didn't follow through on some of those promises, right? And part of the reason why is because Democrats didn't have control of Congress. Then for Trump, he ran on right-wing populism, then turned heel to oligarchy. So yes, they talked about change, but they couldn't be more different in terms of the type of change they wanted to see in America.
Mr. Talcove, do you know how much money a day Mr. Musk will receive from the federal government for his contracts?
No.
The answer is $8 million a day. Just last year, Elon Musk was promised $3 billion from close to 100 contracts with the federal government. Ms. Royal, do you know how much the average person in this country who survives on Social Security, one of our seniors who's worked their entire life, about how much they have to survive on a day?
I do not.
$65 a day. We're not looking into Elon Musk's $8 million a day. This subcommittee, chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the House Republicans, is looking into your grandmother's $65 a day. Let me be clear. I think we would all support taxpayer savings, look into money we might needlessly send to billionaires and big corporations, find taxpayer savings, and send it back to your hardworking family. But instead, what House Republicans and the Trump-Musk administration want to do is they want to look into your kids' lunch money, your kids' teacher's salary, into your grandparents' Social Security. They want to take that money and give it out in billionaire tax cuts, and they're talking about that in committee tomorrow, in budget committee tomorrow. They just released their plan. So let me be clear. When Republicans talk about government efficiency in this Congress, they're not looking into billionaires who don't pay their taxes. They're not looking into billionaires who get rich off of government contracts. They're not looking into Elon Musk firing watchdogs who are supposed to keep him accountable. They're looking at cutting your public schools. They're going straight for your Social Security. They're coming straight for cancer research. They're coming straight for the Department of Education. They're not looking at big tech. They're not looking at big pharma because those people fund their campaigns.
This is what advocating for the economic interests of the American public looks like in practice. Not putting your ego and personal financial incentives over the greater good and the future of our country.
Do you think for 1 second that the oligarchs give a damn about working people? Trust me, they don't. These modern day oligarchs are our kings. And it is not just power, it's incredible wealth that they have. Today, Mr. Musk is worth $402 billion. Zuckerberg is worth $252 billion. Bezos is worth $249 billion. With combined wealth of over $900 billion, these three people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Not surprisingly, since Trump was elected, their wealth has soared. Musk has become $138 billion richer. Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer. And Bezos has become $28 billion richer, all since Election Day. As modern-day kings who believe they have the absolute right to rule, they will sacrifice, without hesitation, the well-being of working people to protect their interests. Further, they will use the enormous media operations they own to deflect attention away from the impact of their policies while they entertain us to death. The oligarchs, with their enormous resources, are waging a war against the working class of this country, and it is a war that they are intent on winning. The worst fear that the ruling class in this country has is that Americans, black, white, Latino, urban and rural, gay and straight, young and old, that all of us will come together to demand a government that represents all of the people in our country, not just the wealthy few. The oligarch's nightmare is that we will not allow ourselves to be divided up by race, religion, sexual orientation, or country of origin, and will together have the courage to take them on.
For me, and I could be wrong here, right? So if you run this back and you say, whoa, you said X, Y, Z, it's like, I made a disclaimer that I could be wrong here. But unless the Democratic Party has a radical shift in their mindset and how they approach things, especially in reaching out to their constituents, you know, the Democratic Party as we know it today could be very different come the 2028 presidential election, and we could see a significant split from progressives and the broader left away from the party because of what we've seen specifically these last few years of inaction and bad messaging and misguided strategy when it comes to campaigns and so on and so forth, and the American people not feeling heard and appreciated. It's possible. I don't think the Democratic Party will change that much when the midterm elections come around in 2026, but for the presidential election, yeah, we could see a real shift, especially because of where we are and how dangerous this administration is and what they're doing to so many people who make America better. Just saying, a lot of changes are coming. I know that. A lot of changes are coming. Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.